are from Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, wherever you are. Warm welcome from MetLife and Valiant itself. So we are working as an insurance partner of yours to ensure that we bring in and capitalizes a lot of healthy practices in our day-to-day. You have seen our calendars. We have been working hard on the disease management on the on-sites. However, as Ramadan just around the corner, it's very important that we start looking into Ramadan and see how can we be healthy. When this topic came to our minds, the first thing which came to my mind was that, oh, Ramadan means eating and eating a lot, you know? So there are tons of things which are generally not made regularly. And then all of a sudden you have all of those nice dishes with you. You have a lot of gatherings. So it's all about eating and eating and eating. But then this will make us unhealthy because we are not taking care of our hydration, we are eating, and we just then get into a circle which do not help us. So we decided to bring in the right experts for this webinar. And I'm very happy and glad to introduce you that we have invited Sidra Jondi. She's from Valiant Clinic, Dubai. She is a Canadian and UK registered clinical dietitian. Why she was being chosen, and one of the main reasons was that she has a very holistic approach on the wellness for nutrition and well-being. So she understands, with the moment we asked her, she understood exactly what we are asking for. She has had her trainings in Canada, where she has completed her master's degree. And then also she has done some work in the UK itself. Her expertise is mainly in focusing on weight management, digestive imbalances, control of diabetes, autoimmune, metabolic disorders, eating disorders. With her culinary nutrition expert, she works on the food as food is a medicine. And she empowers her patients to optimize their overall health and well-being. So that's the core what she does. And who else could be the right person than Sidra to tell us that how we should be looking at this month itself, apart from all those things which I want to eat, Sidra. And she said, no, you're not going to do that all. So let's try and understand that how we can enjoy that as well, and how we can keep healthy. So with this, I'm going to hand this over to Sidra. Please walk us through.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to join. I'm just going to begin by sharing my screen because I've prepared some slides. Yeah, so I believe you guys can see my screen at the moment. Just going to pop open the presentation. Okay, awesome. So we're going to get started. First of all, I would like to begin by introducing my workplace. For those of you living in Dubai, if you're familiar with the City Walk area, I work in a beautiful boutique hospital called Valiant Clinic and Hospital. It is actually a great hospital in the sense that we offer so many different specialties. We are a multidisciplinary hospital. And what makes us unique is that we offer all-in-one health checkups. So different types of health checkups where literally the patient comes in and gets everything done in that health checkup, whether it's blood work, whether it's visiting a dietitian, an optometrist, getting dental care. It's truly amazing services that we offer here. So without further ado, the topic of today's presentation, again, it's going to be focused on fasting, the amazing benefits of fasting, as Ramadan is just around the corner. For those of you, again, who practice Ramadan, I want to wish you Ramadan Kareem. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to kind of take up some of the advice and recommendations and apply them hopefully this year during your fast. Okay, great. So I'm just going to begin by introducing myself. I'm a clinical dietitian here at Valiant Clinic and Hospital in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. I'm also licensed in 3 countries, the United Kingdom, Canada, as well as part of the Dubai Health Authority. I hold currently a Master's of Science in Dietetics, and I completed my Bachelor's in Nutritional Sciences. I also have a culinary nutrition certification by the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. So I'm really into cooking, always coming up with new ideas and recipes to fit different health conditions. So just to give you an idea about my scope of practice, I work with different types of patients, whether it's individuals that just come in to really elevate and balance and optimize their overall well-being, or whether it's individuals that want to work more on a preventative manner and they feel that they're at risk of developing a health condition. So they come and see me and we make sure everything is back on track. Or whether it's individuals that are currently dealing with a health condition or a chronic complication and want medical nutrition therapy to manage their condition. Great. So we're going to get started with a fun icebreaker question just to get you guys warmed up to the topic. So my question here is, what does the month of Ramadan really mean to you? For many people, it can mean so many different things, but I'm interested to hear what it means to you. So maybe you can just drop some comments in the chat box and have a look at them as well. So we're getting a few comments: good food, month for cleansing, back to Allah, productivity, worshipping, good food, self-discipline, unhealthy food. We'll discuss that. Okay, self-control, amazing. It's great. So many great comments. Again, it can mean different things to each person, but again, the important thing about Ramadan is really making sure that you can really benefit from it as well from a health point of view, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically, just feeling your very best. It's a great month of self-discipline, self-control, and it really kind of brings you back to reconnect in a mindful state. So we're going to continue. I'm just going to guide you briefly through today's agenda and what I will be covering. I'm going to start by introducing the basics of intermittent fasting. Okay, so we're going to look into the different types of intermittent fastings that exist. And we'll discuss then after that the health benefits of fasting. I'm sure many of you know that there are great benefits related to fasting in general. Then we're going to get into the intermittent fast, which is the Ramadan, which is a subtype of intermittent fasting, again, with a lot of great benefits, but also it can come with some health challenges for some people. So I'm going to just give you some pointers on how to better minimize or avoid these complications that a lot of people go through. Then we're going to get into the fun part, so talking about how to really build healthy meals in Ramadan, what you should be looking out for when you're building your plate in Ramadan, whether it's for iftar or suhoor, which are the 2 common meals in Ramadan, and then the rationale behind these meals and why these meals are really important, as some people might find skipping some meals is what they commonly do, but I'll explain to you my point of view and the scientific evidence behind that as well. And then we'll look into some lifestyle and more holistic practices when it comes to this month, whether it's hydration, whether it's your sleep, whether it's movement, and how they can really help reinforce and make the most out of this month if they're done properly. So we're going to get started with the basics of intermittent fasting. So as many of you know, and I'm sure you've heard buzzing around, whether it's on social media, whether it's in different books, there are different types of intermittent fasts that exists out there. And I want to kind of briefly introduce them to you. Okay, so you have what we call the 5-2 type of intermittent fast, whereby people who practice this type of intermittent fasting, they fast 2 days of the week, and then they eat normally for the remaining days of the week. So they don't practice the intermittent fasting for 5 days of the week. That's why we call it the 5-2 fast. Again, it fits for some people for their lifestyle. For others, it might not best be the suitable option. So it really depends. Then you have the second type, which is called the eat, stop, eat intermittent fast type of category, where basically you're eating 1 to 2 days of the week. and then you're fasting for 24 hours, basically. So it's kind of like you're kind of like alternating. That's why we call it the eat, stop, eat. And then you have the alternate day fasting, which you fast every other day of the week. This is also another subtype that some people tend to follow. And then you have the most common one that many patients that come and see me often practice. It's quite a popular one, the 16 to 8 type of intermittent fast, where you're eating during 8 hours of the day, and then you're fasting within 16 hours. And within that, obviously, there's the window range where you're sleeping, so you're not eating. And lastly, there's the warrior diet, which is the type of intermittent fasting where you're just having only one meal in the day. And this is usually going to be a larger meal. And this is going to be a dinner meal. So you're technically fasting throughout the whole day and you're just having one meal. So this is just to show you that there are different subtypes. Again, depending on a person's lifestyle, they may or may not wish to kind of practice this. But again, lots and lots and lots of studies in the literature to show that there are fascinating and amazing benefits to fasting. Again, depending on how you do it, the outcomes can be really great. And the literature really has shown us this through various studies. Firstly, improving alertness, mood, and mental clarity. So from a mental health perspective, great benefits for cognitive and brain health. Promoting mitochondrial health. So for those of you who are not familiar with the term mitochondria, they're basically powerhouses. They are the energy house of our cells. So they really promote the health of these mitochondria, helping optimize energy levels and overall well-being. They improve, fasting can improve blood sugar circulation and insulin sensitivity. A lot of people tend to practice it if they feel that they are starting to develop insulin resistance. It's a great way to kind of self-discipline themselves. Lots of great benefits that have been discussed also in terms of balancing lipid profiles. So whether we're talking your LDL, your bad cholesterol, your good cholesterol, your HDL, and overall cholesterol levels. Again, benefits when it comes to weight management by stimulating metabolism and reducing body fat, again, because you're more strict in the times that you can eat. Thereby, lots of people tend to kind of cut down on the total amount of calories that they're eating. So they're more disciplined. Again, lots of benefits on gut health and promoting a healthy gut microflora or microbiome. And again, some discussions on how fasting can help fight inflammation and promote longevity. So again, this is just a summary to show you lots and lots of benefits of practicing intermittent fasting. Okay, so I just want to point out, it's always great to seek, advice from your healthcare professional. If you fall within one of those categories, if you have diabetes, whether you're taking any type of, whether insulin injections or you're taking any type of glucose lowering medication for type 2 diabetes, let's say, if you are pregnant or you're breastfeeding, if you are children or fall in the teenagers category and you have a history of eating disorders, it's always good to double check with your healthcare professional. If you have issues with thyroid problems and you're taking some medications, or if you have a history of gallstone disease, it's always just good to double check before proceeding with the intermittent fasting. Okay, now I want to introduce the holy month of Ramadan, which is approaching in the coming days, hopefully. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's an Islamic fast, which is about 30 days. It lasts about a month. And it typically involves fasting from dawn until sunset. So these are typically the hours where you are not consuming anything by mouth, whether it's liquid or food. And really the kind of idea behind it is strengthening self-discipline, and it helps practice spiritual reflection. So you're more mindful in this month, you're reflecting, and it's the idea of really gaining control of mind and body, okay? So this is just to give you an idea if you're not familiar with the month of Ramadan. Now, I want to just highlight an important aspect about its different stages of adaptation. Again, many people go through different stages of adaptation in Ramadan. And I'm sure many of us experience this. So I want to just guide you through the different stages. So first of all, we have the starting stage, which is typically the first, I'd say, first day to 3 days of Ramadan, where people often experience a drop in blood pressure, obviously blood sugar levels drop, and hence people start feeling a bit dizzy. They could possibly get a headache, and obviously you feel intensely hungry. This is where still your body is, again, entering the fasting mode and you're still experiencing these symptoms. Again, for some people, it could happen. For others, maybe not as intensely. It really depends on your body type and how accustomed you are to fasting. Then we get into the cleansing stage, where you really start getting used to fasting. You're really resting your gut. So you're allowing your gut to kind of diverge from digesting food and to really rest. And you really promote this idea of detoxification. And most of the energy now is being used towards cell repair and cell rejuvenation, which is amazing. So you're giving kind of your body and your cells the ability to do things that they normally maybe are not doing as much, because again, there's less focus on digestion, right? And then your white blood cells, which make up part of the of your immune system, they also become more active. So they're priming themselves, and again, you're really boosting and optimizing immunity, which is excellent. Then we get into the detoxification stage, which is part of why fasting is so fascinating. You have, again, you start experiencing an increase in energy levels. And this is almost, let's say, around a week into fasting, up to 2 weeks into fasting. That's when your body is really accustomed to this whole idea of fasting. Your energy levels have improved. You feel you're concentrating much better, and your organs have or begin the detoxification process. And then you obviously have optimization, where things get much easier. Again, the day passes and you don't feel as hungry, and you're fully adapted. You're fully accustomed to fasting. You have improvements in energy and concentration, and really your body is at maximal or peak function. So this is just to guide you through the different stages, and it's totally normal to experience a few kind of days at the beginning of Ramadan where you're a bit more tired than usual. Again, your body will adapt and things will get much better, and then you will really reap the benefits of fasting. So now I want to get into some common struggles, health-related struggles that people are often facing during Ramadan. Again, with long hours of fasting, and we have limited time ranges where we can eat, we can experience some struggles. So things, for instance, like dehydration, many of us tend to experience it. But again, what can you do to prevent that? Obviously, you want to ensure that you're adequately replenishing fluid and hydration and electrolytes during the hours that you can actually be eating. So this is ideally best from water. You hydrate best from water. But again, 20% of it is also from water-rich fruits and vegetables. So again, things like watermelon, tomatoes, cucumbers, and your leafy greens that are, again, loaded with lots of water. You want to kind of consider making sure to include enough of those in your days. You want to also avoid foods that can trigger thirst. I'll get into that a bit more in the future slides. So things like the very salty foods, the very spicy foods, or foods that are very spiced or have added dry herbs to them that may trigger thirst, and foods that are often high in garlic tend to trigger thirst as well. So you want to just be mindful of that. And obviously you want to limit over consumption of caffeine. Again, when people overdo it during the times when they can be eating or drinking, they tend to have several cups of coffee. Caffeine in general is a stimulant, whether you're getting it from tea or coffee, and it can really cause dehydration. So you want to just be mindful of that. Then you have things like fatigue and a lack of concentration that can happen. So really what I advise people is, again, taking a few deep breaths before breaking your fast, just to really target your body and prepare it for digestion of foods. Ensure that you're hydrating well, and that you're getting enough sleep. This is a really common thing, and I'll get into sleep in a bit in the future slides. Many people in Ramadan do not get enough sleep, or it's the other side of the spectrum, they oversleep. Again, it's this idea of getting into that good balance between getting the right amount of sleep. Usually I suggest around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's when you feel like you're optimized in terms of energy and concentration, and you're not too fatigued for the coming day. Weight gain is a common challenge that many people face. So really what I suggest to people, and I really recommend planning your meals ahead. Again, it's really important. Again, if you are someone that meal preps or you're the one cooking your own food, plan your meals ahead. Again, this is gonna make you more inclined to making healthier choices. And then you're gonna know that you're not gonna go for a last minute meal or have to order something that might not be healthy for you as the hour of iftar is approaching. So planning ahead is really key. Avoiding high sugar foods and fried foods, obviously. I'll get into that a bit more in a bit. And staying active, really important in the month of Ramadan. If you cannot do something as intense as running or cardio, at least going for walks after you break your fast is a great way just to get in more steps, get your blood flowing, and making sure that you are moving. Again, this is an important thing for people that experience constipation. I always tell people, if you are experiencing constipation during Ramadan, it's probably because you are not moving as much. So again, movement is really key. If you are also experiencing constipation, think of fiber. Fiber is really the solution to that. Making sure you're getting enough of the greens, enough of the veggies on your plate for iftar and suhoor. And drinking an adequate amount of liquids as well is really, really key. So hydrating well. And lastly, indigestion. Indigestion is a really, really common challenge. So you really want to make sure that the types of foods that you're selecting, whether it's for iftar or suhoor, avoiding the very fatty and greasy foods, maybe opting for an air fryer could be an ideal tip if you're someone that enjoys things like samosas or sambusak. You can maybe have them air fried or oven baked versus deep fried. Eating slowly, chewing your food really well is so important. Again, people that experience bloating or indigestion, it's probably because they are not chewing their food. And according to studies, you need to chew your food at least 15 to 20 times each bite to really make sure that you are making the most out of every bite, whether it's in terms of nutrient absorption, whether it's in terms of digestion as a whole. Practicing mindful eating techniques, which I'll get into in a bit. Avoiding drinking while eating. For some people, if they drink large amounts of water while they're eating, again, it can promote a feeling of fullness and indigestion. And some things that can help also are things like chamomile, fennel, and peppermint tea. Okay, so the two meals during Ramadan, for those of you who are not familiar, we have the suhoor meal, which is the pre-dawn meal, okay? And the purpose of this meal, again, is to really can prepare you for the day of fast, the long hours coming up. So the purpose of this meal is really to strengthen you, to give you that vitality and sustainability. It should really be a wholesome meal and a filling meal. And it's really what's going to give you the energy for the coming hours of fasting. And then you have your iftar or your post-sunset meal, which is really going to help recharge your body, replenish everything that was lost, whether it's electrolytes, whether it's minerals, and really the variety is really key. So having a variety of different foods on your plate is really, really important to make sure you're getting enough of the different food groups. And I'll be discussing with that in a bit as well. So now getting into how to build a healthy plate in Ramadan. And this is a really, really important skill because many of us, again, even if we get invited, we go to a gathering, we don't always make the healthiest choices, but as a rule of thumb, okay, even if you're eating out, you might want to consider kind of having a plate as similar to this as possible, okay? So you always want to start again with, again, for some people, they enjoy having dates, breaking their fast with a date, 2 or 3 dates. That's okay. Then you want to consider right away replenishing the fluids that were lost. And the best way to do that is through soup. So this is why it's very traditional to have soups in Ramadan. Again, it really hydrates you and it provides your body with all these electrolytes that were lost. You can also consider, obviously, your beverage of choice to always be water or an infused water. You can add some lemon or some fresh herbs. You can always do herbal teas in Ramadan versus, again, caffeinated beverages. Those are excellent as well, and they help digestion. Then we're going to move on, obviously, to what you see majorly on the plate here, which are the vegetables. I always tell people to make sure you've had a successful meal in Ramadan. Make sure that at 50% of that plate is loaded with different vegetables, whether they're cooked, whether they're raw, any way you enjoy eating them. Just make sure you have a bunch of them on your plate. Vegetables in general are the best sources of fiber for humans. They're what are going to fill us up. They are great in managing, again, cholesterol levels, and really they are what's gonna promote digestion and allow us to, again, pass stool and go to the bathroom. So again, this is the tip for constipation, including plenty of veggies on your plate. Again, if you are someone that enjoys having them in a salad, consider seasoning with healthy fats, 2 to 3 tablespoons. Whether you're going for an extra virgin olive oil, whether you're going for chopped avocado in the salad, topping up your salad with nuts and seeds, excellent ways to get in your healthy fats, which are usually loaded with omega-3. And again, these are what are going to fill you up, slow down digestion. And that's good because you're going to be less prone to snacking in between meals. And this is really what we want. Then you have your protein. Obviously, this is about, again, I tell people about a quarter of your plate should be your protein. Again, this can be animal-based or plant-based, depending, again, on your dietary preference. If you are going for an animal-based protein, always good to get some variety, whether you're going for fish, whether you're going for chicken, or you're going for a lean red meat. So this can be something like a piece of steak with no visible fat, for instance. And then you have your carbs, your carbohydrates, which should make up about 25% of your plate. And then again, this can be your slice of bread, your piece of air-fried sambusa, let's say, or samosa. This can be a bit of rice on your plate, whole grain pasta, or some quinoa. And that way you really make sure that you've gotten all of the essential components, you've had a filling meal. And if you're someone looking to manage your weight, again, you've gotten all the essential components there to fill you up, to minimize, again, snacking in between that meal and your suhoor meal. Now I want to give you some ideas for suhoor. Again, most of us never know what to eat for suhoor. It's that meal right before bedtime where people are confused, they don't know what to eat. Some people even skip that meal. But as a clinical dietitian, I really encourage people to, again, not skip suhoor. As I was mentioning before, it's really that meal that gives you that energy and sustainability for the coming hours of fast. But you really have to be smart with the choices you make when it comes to your suhoor meal. So here I've listed some examples. For instance, you can go for maybe an omelet with a variety of colored vegetables like tomato, onion, spinach, asparagus, zucchini. And you can have your piece of whole grain toast for some healthy carbs. That way you've gotten some protein, some fiber, and some carbs, just as we were talking. Or you can go for like an oatmeal bowl topped with some nuts for healthy fats or seeds. You can even top it up with some berries to kind of sweeten the taste naturally, and a tablespoon of your favorite nut butter for healthy fats. Or it can be something a bit more Middle Eastern or traditional, fava beans or fool with olives, diced tomatoes, and parsley. And then you can have on the side a mixed salad and some whole wheat pita bread for some healthy carbs. So these are excellent examples of what a suhoor meal can look like. Again, just making sure you're getting in all of those different components to sustain you the next day. Okay, so I briefly touched on this before, but there are some foods that are best to limit during the month of Ramadan, because again, they can trigger either thirst or they can trigger issues with indigestion. And again, avoiding them can really help you feel your very best, or limiting them as much as possible, let's say. So these are things like your salty and spicy foods. Again, going for something very salty or spicy can cause an imbalance of sodium in the body. And thereby the next day you might find yourself extra thirsty. And this might make the fasting a bit more difficult. Again, things like salted nuts, pickles, obviously chips and crisps, and even food seasoned with soy sauce. Then you have your refined carbs, which I like to call the simple sugars. They really spike up your blood sugar levels. They spike it and then they make you go through a crash. So it's like that peak and drop. And these are things like the pastries, the sweets, the soft drinks, and the fruit juices. I know many of us tend to really go all out when it comes to juices and soft drinks and things like that. So you would just want to be mindful. Again, I'll get into that in a bit, but they are loaded with lots of sugar. And this is something you might probably want to limit as much as possible, or have it occasionally. And then you have your fried foods, which again, usually are cooked in refined oils. These are the vegetable oils that are pro-inflammatory omega-6 oils. They often make us feel very tired and lethargic. So you just want to be mindful. If you're having anything that potentially needs frying, preferably opt for an air fryer. This is the best tip I can give you for Ramadan, opting or getting yourself an air fryer if you're someone that enjoys these fried foods. And then you have your caffeinated drinks, as I was mentioning, like tea and coffee. Again, they promote dehydration when they're overconsumed. So you just want to be mindful of the amount that you're consuming. Now we're going to get into some lifestyle habits that you should really consider incorporating well during the month of Ramadan to really feel your very best. The first one I want to discuss is hydration during Ramadan, which is very, very underestimated by a lot of people. Again, the importance of hydration, I want to highlight this because, again, it impacts so many different systems in our body, whether we're talking at a cellular level for cellular rejuvenation and for cellular repair, and all the way up to the organ functioning level. Okay, so for our organs to detoxify things in the right way and to function optimally, we need to make sure we are providing our body with the right amount of hydration. And this is specifically sensitive because in Ramadan, we have a specific window range in which we can hydrate. So making sure to get in the full amount of hydration that we need. And just to give you an idea, according to recent research, 2.7 liters for female and 3.7 liters for males, roughly. This is the amount you should be aiming for to make sure that you are properly and optimally hydrated, okay? So here are some tips to increase hydration levels. Again, I was mentioning infused water, a great way to limit all of these fruit juices, the Vimto that a lot of people drink, or the syrups that we add. Again, the soft drinks, you can go for an infused water. I tell people also, if you're someone that loves soft drinks, perhaps make it with sparkling water and then add in the fruits or the herbs to make it more of a sparkling type of infused water. Obviously, if you're someone that enjoys herbal teas, I'm all for that. They have amazing benefits, whether you're going for a chamomile, a peppermint tea, for instance, a ginger tea, they're excellent and they don't have any caffeine. So they're a great way to hydrate. Then obviously you have your soups. I always tell people preferably go for a non-creamy soup in Ramadan, go for something a bit more clear or a bit more watery versus creamy. That's when you know it's less insaturated and trans fats. And then you have obviously your vegetables and fruits, which are great ways to hydrate. And many of us enjoy eating some yogurt in Ramadan, and it's like also a great way to hydrate. Then you have an important point that I want to talk to you about when it comes to hydration, just to give you an idea. So here I've outlined the sugar content in some beverages that many of us tend to commonly consume. Again, people go like, okay, but I'm having a freshly squeezed juice. How bad could that be? Just to give you an idea, in a glass of 250 ml, about 250 ml of orange juice, you can have up to around 7 to 8 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, so imagine drinking that in 1 cup. And again, fruits naturally, when you squeeze them, what happens is that you're collecting all of the fructose, but you're getting rid of all of the fiber, which is the goodness, which is really what's going to help stabilize blood sugar and help us feel good and full. So I highly recommend people that enjoy fruit juices instead in Ramadan really limit them and instead have the fruit as a whole, because that's where you're getting the fiber, at least. Again, things like chocolate milk, obviously sodas, most soft drinks are loaded with sugar. Just to give you an idea, in about 1 cup of Coke or Pepsi, you can get about 40 grams of sugar. So again, just to be mindful of that, because again, this is the area where many people tend to gain a lot of weight. Things like coconut water, you want to be mindful of the type you're selecting or the brand you're selecting. Some of them have added sugars, so it's always good to check the label. And things like obviously iced teas and other beverages. So in terms of checking the nutrition label, I always tell people when you grab a product or when you are grocery shopping in Ramadan, don't just look at the front of the packaging and then add that to your cart. Always flip the product to the back, because sometimes the claims are not always as kind of direct as possible. Sometimes certain claims can be misleading. Always good to check the back of the label, read the nutrition label first, check firstly the size of the serving size of that nutrition label, because this is going to dictate what the label is all about, right? And then you want to pay attention to the types of fats or the quality of fats that this product is providing you with, okay? So as a rule of thumb, if it's a product that contains any trans fats, it's probably a product that is quite processed and contains refined oils. So it's probably not the healthiest product to be consuming. Then you have what we call these percentages or percent daily values, which you see on many of the nutrition facts tables. And these are basically a way of kind of estimating whether it's a product that is high in a nutrient or low in a nutrient. And these are usually based on 2,000 calories, a standard 2,000 calorie diet. Okay. So as a rule of thumb, when something is 5% or less, it tells you that this product is low in that type of nutrient or that type of macronutrient. Versus 20% or more, it tells you that that product is high in it. So for instance, if I was to grab this nutrition label right here, I could see that if I was someone probably dealing with hypertension or I'm limiting my sodium intake in Ramadan, this is a product that is quite high in sodium. It's 160 milligrams in that serving of that type of product that I'm taking. That's the amount of sodium I'm getting. It's 7%. Okay, so it's over 5%. So it's quite high in sodium. And then here, if I look at added sugars, it's 20%. So it's also quite high in added sugars. So it's probably not a product that personally I would select because I would feel that I'm getting in quite a lot of sodium and quite a lot of added sugars as well. So this is just something to keep in mind. Staying informed when you're checking the labels in the products that you're purchasing. Another tip I want to share is the ingredients list, which is something that all of us should be checking. Okay, you want to know what's going into your body, right? So you should be reading always the ingredients. And as a rule of thumb, always read the ingredients in the state of mind that ingredients are listed in terms of prevalence, okay? So the first ingredients you're going to see in that product are probably the ones that are majorly in that product. So if I grab a juice and I see that the first ingredients are sugar, agave syrup, or nectar, or concentrate, then this is just giving me an idea that the product is probably loaded with sugar, okay? Again, if there are some ingredients you cannot even pronounce, this tells you the level of added ingredients, whether it's thickeners, whether it's emulsifiers, whether it's coloring agents that are added to the product. And again, it's quite probably a processed product that I would probably want to limit or avoid as a whole. Then I want to get into mindful eating. Mindful eating, again, through recent research, plenty of studies to prove that this is an excellent practice. And I highly encourage you all to try and practice it during the month of Ramadan, since it's a month all about self-control and self-discipline. The whole idea about mindful eating is that it's a technique where you are more connected with your meal, okay? It has to do with really connecting with your five senses when you are at the mealtime, whether it's iftar or suhoor, and really thinking about your meal in terms of your five senses. So looking at your meal, how does the meal look like? How does the food smell like? What are the colors on my plate? When I eat the food, how does the food sound? How does the food taste? Okay, so when we do this subconsciously, we are more connected with the food we're eating. We are more inclined to being aware of the portions that we're eating on our plates, right? And this is an excellent practice, especially for people looking to manage their weight, because many of us tend to overeat during Ramadan. We eat very quickly. We don't take the time to chew our food. We go through periods of indigestion. We're very stuffed and full after the meal. So practicing mindful eating, putting your fork down after every few bites, chewing your food 15 to 20 times, really helps you reconnect with your meal and helps you feel really good after your meal. So I highly encourage you, if you can practice that at least for one of the meals in Ramadan, that is very ideal. And you're gonna feel a very big difference when it comes to digestion and gut health. Then I want to get into sleep. Again, sleep is something that is often underestimated and not really thought of in Ramadan as much because, again, our sleeps are maybe a bit, again, altered and changed based on, again, our prayers or based on, again, having suhoor a bit later or eating a bit later. Again, sleep is really key, as I was mentioning. You always want to aim for about 7 to 8 hours, ideally, of sleep. Sleep is key because it is a really important way of regulating hormone release from our body. Again, we have hormones that dictate different, again, systems in our body. And if they're not released properly, then our body is not functioning at an optimal level. So whether we're thinking metabolism, whether we're thinking blood sugar regulation, managing our stress levels, feeling alert, and our concentration levels to be optimized, we need to make sure we are getting enough sleep in Ramadan. So how can you improve your sleep quality? Again, this is really ideal. I tell people this all the time and it's underestimated. within the first 10 minutes of waking up, try to expose yourself to direct sunlight. And this is amazingly good because it is really going to help you get into deep sleep the next day. And it really prompts the release of cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone that we basically get released in the morning. And it's released in the right amounts when we expose ourselves again to direct sunlight in the morning. Okay, having a bit of cortisol release in the morning is actually a healthy thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing, but again, we don't want to go overboard with cortisol because again, it can lead to different issues in our health. So exposing yourself within the 10 minutes to direct sunlight is really ideal. Setting yourself a routine in Ramadan when you go to bed and when you sleep. This is really, really key. Again, a lot of people tend to stay up very late, they have interrupted sleep, and this can really impact things like metabolism and their hormonal release, and they end up gaining weight. Okay, another thing is limiting screen time. Many of us tend to spend long hours on our phones at night, and again, what we're doing is indirectly exposing ourselves to blue light. And blue light or blue rays are really what can impact your ability to enter into REM sleep or deep sleep. Okay, so your quality of overall sleep is again impacted. Another interesting tip is going for perhaps a magnesium glycinate supplement. Okay, this can be beneficial because magnesium glycinate has been shown to really relax you if you take it an hour before bedtime and really get you in the right mood before sleep. And again, you can do some herbal teas like chamomile, lavender, or lemon balm, which are excellent. Again, limiting caffeine to no more than maybe 1 to 2 cups a day is also ideal because when you go overboard with caffeine, again, cortisol levels are spiked and you are under this kind of pro-inflammatory, stressful stage where your sleep can be impacted. And this is an important tip. Stop eating 3 hours before bedtime. Lots of studies on that to show that it can really help you feel lighter and you can better feel that you are getting into a deeper sleep when you feel lighter before bedtime. Then I want to get into movements. I briefly touched on this, but again, movement in Ramadan, anything you do, any type of movement, if you are not someone that typically goes to the gym in Ramadan, even just walking, getting in some steps in the day is really, really going to do you lots of good. Again, preventing constipation, promoting digestion for your metabolism and for managing your weight. Again, so many health benefits related to movement, whether we're talking on a cognitive level, so for brain health, for lowering blood pressure and improving heart health, for balancing blood sugar levels, for managing stress levels as well, and releasing those endorphins or those happy chemicals that we feel good after working out, and improving sleep quality, as well as helping fight inflammation. These are all some studied benefits of movement. So I highly encourage you to move as much as possible during this holy month. If you are someone that prefers to move after iftar, that's totally fine, but making sure not to just sit after the meal. Okay, with this, I would like to end the presentation. I hope this was useful for everyone. And now the floor is open to any questions. So I'm happy to take in some of your questions.
Thanks a lot, Skindra. This was very helpful, especially the part of the cortisol one was very interesting. Something new to learn, you know. We already have got a couple of questions and a few are still coming in. So somebody has asked, is it normal to lose weight during Ramadan? Because it seems to be that people are linking weight loss with the fasting.
Again, it really depends. If it's a goal for you, then if it's something you're targeting, then maybe it is. But again, if you are consuming balanced meals, it's not something that, again, is natural. You're not going to be necessarily losing weight if you're getting in the right amount of protein to maintain your muscle mass, you're getting in all of your fiber and healthy fats, then you can also maintain your weight. It's not necessarily kind of a done deal where you're going to have to be losing weight in Ramadan. So again, on the other side of the spectrum, you have people that gain a lot of weight. So it really depends on kind of the approaches and the eating habits you are following in this month.
Great. While you were talking about the beans, somebody has asked a question that doesn't means makes us more thirsty.
Sorry, beans?
Beans.
Beans. Okay, so like pulses. It really depends, depending if you're getting them canned or getting them kind of raw from the supermarket. If you are getting them canned out of convenience, I know some people just find it convenient to buy canned beans. I always tell people to rinse them out with some water because most canned products are, again, stored in a lot of sodium. So maybe rinsing them out with some water, letting them kind of air dry, and then cooking them is always better.
Great. People with insulin resistance, any specific precautions for them?
Yes. So as I was mentioning, in general, fasting, and this goes beyond just the Ramadan fast. In general, if you want to do any sort of intermittent fasting, it's always good to double check with your physician or healthcare professional, especially if you are someone taking glucose lowering medication, like any pills like metformin and glucophage, to double check, just because your healthcare professional or your doctor might need to adjust the dose if you will be practicing any sort of fasting.
Right. Are there any tips for diabetes and fasting? This has been covered, but there is another part of the question. How can you reduce your lipid profile during Ramadan? So most probably the question is that, is there a way to reduce your lipids during Ramadan?
Great question. So as I was mentioning, again, going back to this idea of really limiting these vegetable refined oils, okay, this is an area where I find a lot of people tend to build on weight in Ramadan because of these refined oils. Again, the foods that are cooked in these vegetable oils, whether it's a lot of the the fried foods that we consume that are cooked in these oils, or even a lot of the juices that people consume in Ramadan. These are all areas that tend to really negatively impact lipid profiles, whether we're talking triglyceride levels or LDL cholesterol. So these are areas to really look out for, as I was mentioning. And on the other end of the spectrum, really pushing towards more omega-3 or healthy fats and plenty of fiber, because fiber is really what, again, picks up that LDL cholesterol from the blood, recycles it, and helps lower it. So if you're someone that is mindful about cholesterol levels, then for sure, advise you to really load up on fiber.
Great. Somebody is asking that, does green tea have any caffeine in it?
Yes, it does. So green tea does have caffeine, but it also has amazing benefits. Thank you for whoever asked this question. It's loaded with a compound called EGCG, okay? And many studies have shown that this compound is an excellent antioxidant. So again, a lot of anti-inflammatory benefits, but you just want to be mindful not to go overboard because it is a caffeinated beverage.
If somebody is diabetic, is it safe to take insulin after sahur? And how many units do you recommend? I'm not too sure whether you will recommend anything, but please go ahead.
So for this question, I would please direct you to your endocrinologist. Your endocrinologist would best know the dosage. Again, it's very case-by-case basis. So it's best to visit or pay a visit to your endocrinologist if you plan on fasting, and they will guide you through the right process because it's very subjective on every person.
Great. Very good question, which has come up. What's the best time of doing an exercise in Ramadan?
Okay. So this question, honestly, lots of controversy about it. But the best way to answer it is listen to, again, what your body is telling you. If you are someone that doesn't matter for them to exercise, let's say an hour to an hour and a half before fasting, and if you are someone that is going to do something a bit milder, maybe going for a walk or maybe a stretch or yoga or Pilates, something that doesn't really involve a lot of sweating, then for sure do that by all means before breaking your fast, before iftar. If you are someone that feels that you want to do something a bit more intense, maybe some CrossFit training, some high intensity training, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do it after eating. Again, we don't want you to have a sudden drop in blood sugar levels. So always best to do it at least after having eaten something.
Great. So if somebody wants to lose weight, what's the best time to eat a dessert? So most probably the question is it a sahur? Is it iftar? What time should we be looking at dessert?
Great question, because I'm sure many of us are going to get the temptations to want to have a sweet treat. The best way to answer this question is, again, never have dessert on an empty stomach, okay? So whether you want to have that after iftar or after suhoor, Again, always try to have it on a full stomach for 2 reasons. Again, to avoid a blood sugar spike, because when you have dessert on an empty stomach, you're likely going to spike and crash. And this spike and crash is what we want to avoid. And secondly, because when you eat it on a full stomach, you're probably full and you're going to have probably smaller quantities of it. So this is really the best tip I can give you. If you are someone that goes to bed, again, very late in Ramadan, you just also want to be mindful not to have the dessert too close to bedtime. As I was saying, give yourself at least a 2 to 3 hour gap from your last meal to bedtime, not to feel too heavy as well.
Great. So somebody is asking that milk and dairy products are lately unadvisable as they are from the animal source. Is this true? So that's the first part of the question. And if it is true, should it be replaced by a non-animal sourced milk?
Okay, this is a very good question. So much controversy on whether we should be consuming dairy, not consuming dairy. Honestly, the best tip I can give this person, if you are someone that is lactose intolerant, if you've done a hydrogen breath test and the doctor has told you, okay, you have less of the enzyme lactase to digest lactose, you are someone that bloats after consuming dairy products, then I highly encourage you completely limit dairy products, go for more of the lactose-free products or the plant-based alternatives for dairy. And there are some excellent ones out there. If you are someone that does not get bothered by a dairy, you have to just be mindful of the types of dairies you're selecting. Again, lots of dairy products out there, again, have been, been exposed to lots of antibiotics. So I urge people to always be careful with the product that they're selecting. Always check the back of the label. As I was saying, look at the ingredient list and then make your decision based on that. Okay, so it's really a personal choice. But again, if it's more for medical reasons and you are lactose intolerant, then for sure limit dairy.
Great. So questions keeps pouring in, Sidra. So the specific advice on food items for people with IBS issue.
Okay. So again, IBS, patients that I work with IBS, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a very case-by-case basis. So I cannot really give you that specific tip. But the best advice I can give you is generally to follow a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs, they're basically these foods that get fermented in our gut that for many people that have IBS issues can cause bloating, okay? So as a general tip, I'm sure the person that asked that question probably heard of or is familiar with the FODMAP diet. Follow a low FODMAP diet, but again, follow up with a dietitian or a healthcare professional to really see what are the foods that fit in best with your diet eating patterns and what are those that should be limited. So it's very case-by-case basis.
Great. Anything generalized which you can tell us for people who are suffering from an iron deficiency anemia, what in general they should eat?
Okay, so in terms of iron deficiency, a few tips to give you on that. First of all, if you are someone that is taking any supplements, so iron supplementation, because you have anemia or iron deficiency, always make sure that you space that out from any coffee or tea. Coffee or tea have this substance called tannins, okay? So when we take our iron supplement and then with an hour later we grab a cup of coffee, we cannot fully benefit from the iron supplement. This is one tip. The second tip is to kind of separate that iron supplement from any calcium containing foods. Calcium and iron counteract one another. So again, that pill will not give you the best effects. And my last tip is to always pair iron-rich foods with vitamin C. Again, iron and vitamin C together, they strengthen one another, they work in synergy. And this is really what's going to help optimize the iron from the food when you pair it with vitamin C. So for example, I'm having a salad that has arugula, very high in iron, and I have a squeeze of lemon on top of it. Or I combine it with some red bell peppers, which are very high in vitamin C. It's a great way to get the most out of the iron from the arugula.
Okay, so quickly, a few more questions. Should I take my blood pressure medication before Fajr or after Maghrib?
This is also very case-by-case basis. Again, it depends. I don't have a definite answer for this. Again, you can take it anytime you'd like, but always good if you have issues with blood pressure to double check with your physician or healthcare professional, because they can best guide you for practices in Ramadan.
Something very interesting now. Somebody's asking, how can I gain weight if the person is very thin and has high metabolism without having to encounter cholesterol, diabetes, or high blood pressure issues?
This is a great question. Again, gaining weight is not something that, again, is easy for people that are looking to do that. You always have to have this mindset of what can you add to your food to increase the nutrient density, but not necessarily increase the volume. Because again, these people that are looking to gain weight, there's just so much they can eat, especially in Ramadan, right? So for these people, I advise them, again, plenty of healthy fats. Healthy fats are high in calories. So about 9 kilocalorie per gram if you think of fats in general. So healthy fats, load up on avocados, load up on extra virgin olive oil in your salad, let's say, plenty of nuts and seeds to top off your foods. They're all great ways to load up on healthy fats, omega-3 fats, without having to negatively impact your cholesterol levels with trans fats or high levels of saturated fats. So again, it's about the quality of fats that you select, whether it's in your dressings or adding in just a bit more components to your meal without increasing the volume too much.
Great. Any good suggestions for vitamin D deficiency? What kind of foods should we add to our meals?
So this is a good question. Most of us are deficient, unfortunately, in the UAE in vitamin D. Best absorbable form of vitamin D is from the sun. So getting in some sunlight, obviously. But if we're looking from a food perspective, some great foods could be things like eggs. Eggs are usually a good source of vitamin D. Getting in some mushrooms. Certain, again, dairy products are fortified with vitamin D. So those are all good ways to, again, getting a bit more vitamin D. But the best way, again, is from sunlight or to get in a supplement if you're someone that is deficient.
So I promised last two questions. Any advice for people who have gout and they still want to lose some weight? So any specific thing they should read? Yeah.
Okay. So for gout, again, this person probably did a uric acid test and they noticed that the uric acid levels are high. This is usually why someone would probably test for gout, the uric acid levels. Again, the best advice is limiting red meat, okay, or foods that are high in what we call the purines, okay? Usually things like red meats, they can aggravate gout. For many of these people, they have pains in their joints, okay? They feel like there is a lot of, again, pain around the joint areas, whether we're talking about fingers. So limiting red meat would be really key. And limiting things like, for some people, mushrooms. But again, it's very case-by-case basis because what could be a trigger food for someone might not necessarily be for someone else. But I would look into a low purine diet if you're someone that has gout.
Great. Now, one question which came right from the start and continued to come in, and I deliberately did not ask you, is that people are asking, would you be happy to share your presentation? So I'll leave it to you to take a decision. If you don't want to answer, we are good with that.
Okay, no worries at all. I'm glad people found this informative and they want the slides. The best I can do is actually share a good summary of the key points I discussed. I usually do that after every talk. And I believe this is an efficient way for everyone just to get really the main points instead of having to scroll through the slides. So I'm more than happy to have that sent to you and then you can share it with the participants.
There was a question which came in to me before this presentation started, and that question was that some of the people have joined us from across the region: Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Egypt, and Jordan. If those people are interested to have a consultation with you, do you do any type of a teleconsultation, or you just believe in a face-to-face consultation?
At the moment, post-COVID, we haven't been doing any telehealth consultations. I mean, this is something that I would have to discuss again with management, but for now, I'm just seeing patients one-on-one, face-to-face. I believe this is also the most optimal way to really get the most out of a session when you see someone face-to-face. But again, I'd have to discuss that with my management.
All right, so with this, Sidra, I would really like to thank you a lot. It was very informative, good learnings, a couple of good takeaways for me as well. And we are hoping that all our attendees have really enjoyed it. I think the questions tells you the whole story that people are really interested. And from MetLife perspective, we wish you all a very happy and healthier Ramadan. And please don't leave wellness during the Ramadan days. If you want to keep yourself healthy and yourself fit, that's the best way. So thank you very much. Happy Ramadan and from MetLife and Williamport. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.